What is up, everybody? Welcome back to youtube.com/DyllonKG. Today we're discussing Pyramid Head. Now, Pyramid Head has been out for a little over 1 week. So you may be asking yourself, how can anyone make a definitive guide? That is a wonderful question. Undoubtedly, changes will probably happen and people will learn to run against Pyramid Head better than they do now, but I do believe this guide will be good through most, if not all of that. But as a disclaimer, this video has been made prior to any Pyramid Head changes or hot fixes, and we'll have a link to an update video here if there ever comes a time to make one. And of course, before we get started, if you are brand new to the game or playing Killer for the first few times, we have a whole playlist for DBD Killer tips designed to help you get universally better as any and nearly all killers. So be sure to go check that out. I'll leave the link in the corner and in the description. This is the definitive guide to playing the Pyramid Head Killer, aka the Executioner in Dead by Daylight. But okay, Pyramid Head, all right. The Executioner, aka Pyramid Head, exceeds at denying loops, mind gaming, and being incredibly efficient with his time, but he is heavily reliant on chasing, he is predictable, and he relies on accuracy and sometimes guessing. To play him well, you have to learn how to consistently inflict your status effect and balance using your Cage of Atonement ability versus just hooking a survivor like normal. Not only does his skill ceiling lie in decision making, but you have to mind game survivors into being hit by your Punishment of the Damned attack, as it is somewhat predictable. So let's rewind, let's go to the beginning, and let's start with the early game and the beginning of chases with Pyramid Head. Now, early game with Pyramid Head is much like nearly any killer that relies on chasing. You want to find and wound multiple survivors at once before committing to one particular chase. This is pretty standard. Once you find your first survivor to commit to, it is imperative you try to catch them in a loop. You actually want them to try to loop you as fast as you possibly can. Whether that be the shack, a pallet loop, a window, etc., whether you hit them once or you don't hit them, that is up to you. And this is where Pyramid Head starts to shine. If a survivor gets you into a loop, you should start using your Rites of Judgment ability, which causes you to start dragging your blade in the ground. Now, you still move at 110% movement speed while doing this, so you're still faster than survivors, but you're not at maximum speed, of course. This will leave a trail in the ground. If you look at it, we call this the sauce. Now, if a survivor commits to the loop, they'll step in the trail. So if you're looping around a pallet and you choose to chase them while leaving the trail, eventually if they commit to that same loop, they will step in the sauce. And you'll be notified with a heartbeat as they take on the Torment status effect. If the survivor doesn't want the status effect, they'll leave the loop and they'll run away to a different loop, just out of their way, whichever, which allows you to better close the distance and potentially save time. The trail on the ground has so many implications that a lot of survivors want to try to avoid it nearly at all costs. Use this to your advantage when chasing in a loop. Loop while using your Rites of Judgment. It is really important that you afflict the Torment status effect in a chase, and if you don't afflict the status effect, odds are you're going to down them very fast because they're doing everything they can to avoid it. Obviously, don't throw the chase to try to get them to take the status effect, but always try to pressure survivors into the trail. Now, that being said, that's the beginning of chases and finding your first few survivors. Let's discuss actually using your Punishment of the Damned ranged attack and how to end chases with survivors once you get in them. Now, while leaving the Rites of Judgment trail, you can use your attack button to release a trail, sort of a wave, directly forward that will inflict damage to all survivors in the path. This can go through walls, go through pallets, and through windows. However, this attack comes with a 2.75 second cooldown, so missing this attack could cost you a lot of precious time. Survivors are going to try to do one of two things typically. They're going to try to drop pallets early, which is the reason why you want to have your ability at the ready so that you don't miss an opportunity for a free hit, or they're going to try to juke at a pallet or at a window. They're going to run right at the pallet, making you think they're going to go through the loop, and they're going to keep running and go left or right. Same with windows, and so that's why you need to have extreme patience and wait for them to be locked into the animation before you use your ability, but have it at the ready. As mentioned, the attack cooldown is super lengthy, so try training yourself to take a bit more extra care. Be sure that you're almost guaranteed to hit them. They're between two objects. Like I said, they're committed to animations for pallet drops, etc. However, It's really important to know with Punishment of the Damned, the threat of using the attack will cause survivors to make mistakes or opt out of using valuable resources like pallets and like windows, and that's where, again, he's very oppressive. Here, that's the thing, is you want to wait to use your attack. You want to wait to use the Punishment of the Damned attack until you know for sure that they are going to be locked into the animation, all right? There are sometimes, you know, where you can try to hit people through the corners of door entryways and moments where they don't have a lot of left and right movement, but for the most part, don't use your ability too liberally if you're not really good at that kind of prediction, if you're not good at applying that pressure. Try to be patient with the ability, or else you're going to end up costing yourself a lot of chases, all right? So say that you have engaged in a chase, you downed a survivor. Let's go ahead and talk about the sort of post-chase wrap-up, or how to use him effectively since he is such a chase-oriented killer, all right? If survivors have stepped into a trail and they have the torment status effect when downed, which you can see in the bottom left-hand corner via barbed wire, you will have the option of sending people to a cage or putting them on a hook. This is where your judgment is fairly important. Generally speaking, if you send someone to a cage, the cage will appear as far from the killer as possible, generally the polar opposite side of the map. A really good example for Pyramid Head is if you are setting up a 3-generator strategy and you've cornered sort of a territory on the map. Say a survivor runs you away from that territory, but you eventually down them. You can put them in a cage and send them back to that opposite corner of the map where you've staked out your territory and continue applying pressure to the survivors there that may go for the uncage, as well as keeping those generators locked in for yourself. If it's really, really early game and they have not completed a single generator yet, using cages to kind of spread survivors away from generators that they've been working on could be incredibly intelligent as well, so that something like Hex Ruin could slow those generators down and regress them, allowing you a lot more early game pressure. It is really worth noting that cages allows you to completely circumvent things like flashlights, pallets, stuns, sabotaging hooks, etc. So if you find yourself running against a survive with friend group that is just really good at getting those saves, it may be your best to pressure people into getting torment effect and trying to send them to cages as often as possible. Don't throw the match for it, but as often as possible. Using cages means you don't get to use any perks that require picking up or hooking survivors, like Pop Goes the Weasel, Thrilling Tremors, Barbecue Chili, etc. Survivors also don't get to use perks like Borrowed Time, D-Strike, or Deliverance if they get sent to a cage. You also have to consider that survivors with the Torment status effect will continue to have the status effect until they're put into a cage and subsequently removed, meaning you can inflict the status effect at the beginning of a match, hook them twice normally throughout the match, and then use your final judgment mini-mori instead of their third hook to save you some time. Or you can hook someone and later cage them if you need to save time and continue to apply pressure. In summary, with Pyramid Head, you want to use your rights of judgment while in loops, especially pallet loops or giant circles. You want to pressure survivors into stepping into the sauce or leaving the loop entirely because they don't want the status effect. Now, in either of these two events, if you catch them going to windows or dropping pallets, you want to have your sword in the ground with your rights of judgment. You want to be ready to hit them with Punishment of the Damned the minute that they're locked into an animation to get that guaranteed hit. You want to work on your prediction when they're going through entryways, doorways, narrow hallways, etc. And you want to be patient as to not use your attack all willy-nilly whenever you want, thinking that you're a prediction god, because you're going to waste a lot of time if you're not careful. And of course, lastly, use your best judgment when using cages versus hooks. And don't tunnel when people get out of cages, because that sucks. It's bad manners. You might as well just be a camper. Just get better at everything else. You won't need to do that. So use your best judgment when using cages or hooks. I hope this video was concise for you guys. I hope it was boiled down but understandable. If you guys want another one of these, let me know, of course, and let me know down below if you think that Pyramid Head is too strong or is too underpowered, and I will pray to the entity to see you guys in the next video. Deuces.